What's up guys, I'm Uki, the lead developer behind Shodō. I'll be starting with an intro of the game for newcomers, summarize the progress so far, share a cool trick I found to make Unity's standard assets look toony, and end with important announcements on recruitment, restructuring, and what to look forward to. Shodō is a virtual reality game in a realm where mind over matter is given new meaning. Here, the complexity of your casting is your potential for destruction. How well you command your psychic ability depends on how well you perform in the heat of battle. No longer will you be bound by any predetermined language of magic. Use what lies within you: magic circles, runes, movement, your origins, to one day take your combat art to the top. In a world where your mind is the limit, what legacy will you write? Consider wishlisting the game on Steam for the most up-to-date info, like when we've added support for other platforms, or when the website and Twitter pages are ready, join the Discord. That's also where we'll be recruiting people for our closed alpha program. There's a lot that I'd like to talk about, like the AI system, the avatar system, the ammo system, the throwable weapons physics, but I'll be pacing those throughout the next ones. Up until now, I was mainly working on putting together a trailer so I get a better idea of what I'd like a game in Shodō to look like. As a result, I've been able to give the game a decent visual update. After this devlog comes the trailer, so stay tuned. The Steam page won't be videoless for long. Anyhow, here are some of the highlights of how development went. Let's take a look at warping and time dilation. These two passives are affected by the terrain you're in. So warping is empowered while in enemy territory as to encourage aggressive melee attacks, while time dilation is empowered while in friendly territory to encourage strategic combat unaffected by mindless throwing. Both of these passives were actually inspired by previous games I worked on. I experimented on the warping implemented as a boost and acceleration through a jump in my previous game, Phi-Sci. This lets you traverse wide terrain without doing all the boring walking, while also making melee combat feel really awesome. Time dilation was a relatively recent concept that I implemented back in my university's game jam. It's called Acorn Tennis, a PC tennis game, and it was intended for multiplayer use, so I implemented a way to create a localized bubble of slowed time for a super hot-esque effect without changing everything on the server. I'm still tweaking the effect because currently the visuals cause some lag, and I don't have audio for it. The next highlight is special effects, specifically the relic inversion animation and how I toonified standard asset sprite sheets. Relic inversion is when a relic's stocks have been overturned to the other team, and it's a significant event. And because of that, I want to make it something memorable and distinct, something that rewards the player. At the same time though, it can't be so crazy that it breaks from the calm nature of Shodo. So far, I've gotten by largely with the visual effects graph of Unity, but millions of particles and procedural animations wasn't giving me what I needed. I went back to the basics and played around with the default particle system and created the effect I wanted piece by piece. The initial smoke explosion, the column of smoke shooting out of the relic, the poof that leads the column. My result was this effect. I want to share a technique that I tried that lets you take a non-toon sprite animation and turn it into a tunable, toony animation. First, you open up your photo editor. I used Pixlr, which is a free and online photo editing application. You drag and drop whatever sprite sheet you want to use and apply the posterization filter to it. Basically what this does, if you don't know already, is it splits the color in your image to some target number of colors. This is really useful, and it's actually a part of toon shading, or the toon shading process, which is why you end up with a toony look. Now if you want to take it a step further, especially with effects like these fire effects, you can make it grayscale beforehand, then posterize it. Then make a shader graph shader, or whatever it might be in Unreal, that remaps each color level. It's in uniform ranges as the output of posterization. So you map that to a custom set of colors. It might be a gradient for temperature, or like a specific color palette that you want. It becomes really versatile just by applying this simple filter to it. So I thought for all the other indie developers out there, this would be something really helpful. And that's it. Let me know in the comments if this helps, and I'll be sure to share some of the other tricks I've learned through development. Now back to development. Through trailer development, I realized that I'll need help. So far, I've overcome my critical deficiency in animation by snagging sample assets from Unity and royalty-free ones online, but I'll need to get something better than these passive-aggressive, casual humanoids that I only know how to backthrow. I'll need someone that's invested themselves in the art of animation, so I'm going to start actively recruiting and searching for someone that might be able to make this game look a lot nicer. On the same note, as it relates to 3D modeling, it's pretty much the same story, though I haven't addressed it much at all. With toon art especially, it's critical that these details be in the model and not the texture. So I can't just snag random, images off the internet. Each model has to be meticulously designed and detailed manually, and that's a task that requires both art and skill that I don't have. Finally, I'm looking for some audio people. I don't know anything about how sound is dealt with in game development, but what I do know is that the lack of impact audio and sound effects in general makes Shodo a bit too quiet, and it doesn't give players the satisfaction they deserve in game actions. If you are interested in the project and want to know more, join our Discord community to gain a inside look and stay up to date. Finally, onto restructuring and the future. The first major change to note is that the name of the game has been changed from Shuji to Shodo. You may have noticed this in the art. Mainly, it's because Shodo is easier to say, and it sounds like other martial arts like Judo, Aikido, Kendo, Taekwondo, etc. The second major change is the organization and restructuring of how Shodo is being developed. Up until now, it's basically been me adding features and updating them just as I felt, and I knew it had to change. Thankfully, with our latest recruit, a professional indie game dev, we have begun to reassess our workflow. The current plan is to build up the marketing side of Shodo, website, cross-platform support, social media, etc., while I completely rebuild the onboarding experience so players can quickly get a feel for what makes Shodo special. After alpha testing this, we'll move on to building a solid single-player experience oriented around presenting the player with different battle scenarios and enemies with different behaviors, after which we'll focus on bringing the game to new platforms. That's all I can disclose for now, but in a nutshell, exciting progress is soon to come. Alright, that's all. If you like what you're seeing, like the video. For the most up-to-date info, check out the Discord. It's in the description. And for summarized content like this, consider subscribing.